Hello, this is Dakota from I'll Walk With You. On this episode, we have a great conversation with Julie DeJesus, founder of IWWY. Julie is a keynote speaker, podcast host, author, and mental health advocate who has made her brand and centered her work and much of her life on the belief that human connection restores mental health and resilience. In this conversation, we discuss the importance of believing in something bigger than ourselves and the importance of authenticity. Julie shares a raw story of her own mental breakdown at the age of 21, how that led to questions of faith, the existence of a God, and how the connection that she experienced with others who were willing to sit with her and hold space for her to safely question these doubts and fears provided the environment necessary for healing to occur. We talked about the importance of showing up for others in their hour of need and not trying to fix them in that moment, but instead allow them to feel safe, feel seen, and feel validated in order for true healing and processing to happen. Julie pointed out the importance of making big life-changing choices, not from a place of fear, but from a place of peace and tranquility. We discussed the importance of being aware of the emptiness that often comes in liminal spaces, the in-between we experience in life transitions, and extending grace to others in this time, and also allowing grace for ourselves. In this episode, Julie refers to the experience she had in meeting with and interviewing Kevin Franke after the release of the Hulu documentary about his family, A Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Franke, and the powerful conversation that the two of them had about the beauty and the humanity that he experienced after his world came crashing down in such an unfathomable way. Julie is truly an inspiration, and it was an honor to have her as a guest on I'll Walk With You. I recently appeared in an episode of the ICU podcast. The link to that, as well as other links regarding Julie, will be provided in the episode description. Thank you for joining us on this walk. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to I'll Walk With You, where we have conversations about how we can be more unified on our walk together in this life. My name is Dakota Moses.
And I'm Rhonda Monson. And we're super excited to have Julia on our podcast this morning. We actually had the opportunity to meet Julie at a Fortified in Christ conference in Utah. You just lit up the room, is what I would say, because we actually met you before you did your presentation. Mm-hmm. We met you just at your booth where you were selling your book, and you were just like pure light. Just felt this instant connection to you. And so then you did your presentation, which was really powerful and beautiful. Julie, she has her own podcast. I see you.
Yes.
See, my brain. I see you podcast. And she also runs a women's group. She is also a keynote speaker for events. And we're just honored to have you. I am going to side note just for a quick second, because we just found out that you run a women's group. And I've been leading personal growth retreats for women for a very long time before retreats were a popular thing. And I would love to hear what got you into that.
Hey, thank you for the nice introduction. What got me specifically into running a women's group?
Yes.
So it's a new thing we're doing at IWWY, and it sounds like I don't have this is the first time I've been asked it, because this is a new thing that I'm branching out, but it's basically because I had enough people coming to me with the need. Like, I have enough women that reach out to me sometimes multiple times a day, looking for connection and looking for people like me. And I don't say that in that I think that I'm special. We're all special in our own ways, but I guess I've been open about needing connection and needing other people, maybe in a way that some are a little more nervous to talk about. And having women that relate to that needing that connection so badly in their lives, and see the destruction it's done on their mental health when they're not connected with other people, which is something in my story I can really relate to, that I just have felt so much of a need as people have approached me again and again. And I've just kind of taken that as a pattern and a witness that it's easy to feel the imposter syndrome as like, does the world really need another women's group or retreat or right or book like that and I think the answer is yes. I think we do. So yeah, I'm really excited about our women's group. It's called the ICU Sisterhood, and it's a good time.
Fantastic. That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We
We'll
just,
have to talk later. We'll have to trade
yes,
notes. I want to hear more about your retreats. And I'm
please.
excited you're coming on. We're going to cruise together in January, which I'm
We
very excited about.
are. I'm very excited about that. That's like my first big cruise ship ever. I'm
That's amazing.
55 and it's my first one. I'm very excited.
Awesome. Julie, your podcast that you have is all about how human connection can restore mental health and vitality. And I would love to hear what your journey has been with from idea to creation to where you're at now with that journey.
Yeah, I mean, really, the root of why this all started, my company, ICU Living, and my speaking under ICU leadership is all rooted in the fact that when I was 21, I had a mental breakdown at work, and my mental health was, I mean, I was in and out of therapy. I'm still in therapy, but in and out of therapy multiple times a week, on and off meds, just kind of in a state of crisis, on and off, I guess I'd say, for about 6 to 7 years after that. And it was really the way that people showed up for me during that time when everything fell apart, the way that people were willing to sit with me in the uncomfortable that truly saved my life. It was that human connection factor. There are other resources that are so incredibly helpful, but I did not find anything that could replace that need for human connection, to feel real, to feel noticed at a time when I felt so unlike myself and so absent from my own body in some ways that I lived firsthand the power of human connection to truly save lives, not as a catchy, antidote or but truly as a reality for me. And so from there it just really became something that felt much bigger than me that I felt a duty to share the stories of people. That's when the podcast began of the people that had done that for me and help people understand how much how much influence they could have on a single human being.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. So I would love to hear um, about some times maybe that you have faced along your journey with your company, with your podcast, with your speaking and everything, where you mentioned some imposter syndrome. I would love to hear about some times where you faced maybe some conflict, or even if it's just within your own psyche or within your own being of times where you had to overcome some difficulties or some trials that you may have faced in your journey.
I mean, no, I can't relate to that. I've always been confident and sure of myself. Just
Me
kidding.
too.
Just get right. It's pretty easy. You just need to try harder. Just like everything in life, uh, just work harder. No, that is not the case by any means. Oh man, like so many memories come to mind when you ask that question, but I'm just gonna go with where I feel is the most present in my brain that I keep thinking back to as I thought about coming on your guys' podcast, which is so awesome, by the way. I love it so much. I love what you guys are doing. Um, and I've never talked about this on a podcast or when I speak. I don't think, mostly just because the content isn't relevant to usually what I'm speaking about. But so this will not be polished in any way as a keynote or anything like that. But I do think the authenticity of it, I think there will be people that can relate to this. When my depression, during that time, specifically when I really mentally broke, and people that have been clinically depressed and anxious and can't get panic attacks under control and things, I think can maybe relate to this in a deep way, but I think everyone can relate in some way. I did not feel connected to any sort of higher power outside of myself. I did not feel what growing up I was taught I could feel when I was doing the right things as I saw them. I really struggled and wondered as someone that deeply believed in God. I really struggled to wonder, and I'm fairly present and active in my faith practice and in my religion and always have been. And at that time, I wasn't just questioning my faith practice or my religion. I was questioning if there was deity at all, if that was even real, if there was anyone aware of me outside of me, but especially a higher power. And is that is something depression will do, is make you question everything you ever thought you knew, because it is so difficult to feel anything else. And I just want to say that while that was a really struggling time, it was also a time when I was able to see the best in some people, and people that were willing to sit with me that believed very firmly that there's a God, but were willing to sit and listen to me express my doubts and express my fears of what if there's nothing there. The people that I would tell that I would pray, I would meditate and cry and just beg, like, I hope, like, please be there. Because I don't know if there's anything beyond this, and or if there is anyone that's aware of me. Um, and I guess I just want to give voice to the people that weren't afraid of me, that didn't feel their own beliefs challenged by my fears and my doubts and I don't even want to paint that all as negative. I think we all should have the right to look at things from multiple angles and to reevaluate what we think based on our life experience. But I really just like want to pay tribute that there is a way to have someone question things that you believe and to not become defensive, to not feel the need to fix it, to not feel threatened, but to just sit and be. And that I believe whatever faith tradition or belief system you hold, that I think there is a commonality of peace that is found there, and that should be our first priority. And I got to witness that firsthand. And so that's like what keeps coming to mind for some reason, is that period, especially when I was 21, 22, when things were really at their worst, as far as me feeling just very disconnected from any sort of higher purpose, rather than what I was feeling at that time. The people that could sit and just listen and just say things like, that makes sense why you would feel that way. And that makes sense why that scares you, because you thought this and now you're wondering this, and like that's valid. That makes sense.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience. Like, because all of a sudden it took fear out of it. It took fear out of being rejected. It made the decision mine to figure out what I believed, and not because I was worried what anyone else thought, because I knew there were people that loved me no matter what. And so I could make those authentic decisions for myself and have an authentic journey myself.
That's so powerful.
Truly. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's in our darkest moments that the most amazing radiant light comes out of. It's so important when we're there in that space to hold on. It's so important when we're there in that space to let others in, and to be okay with being real and vulnerable, authentic, raw, so that we can heal.
And also embrace where we're at.
Mhm.
And that's so much easier said than done
For
the
sure.
vast majority of time. But being able to give ourselves permission to feel whatever it is that we're feeling, just as we would hope that others would allow that and provide that space for us, or how we would want to show up for another person. I think it's just as important to. to embrace where we are and have that grace for ourselves. Um, I remember a time, when I felt very strongly that I needed to go off of my antidepressants and kind of just take my own life by the reins a bit. And when I did that, I just had breakdown after breakdown after breakdown, of course. And I remember standing in the kitchen and just like not yelling at my husband, but just yelling, and he was just there absorbing. And I was like, I know I'm gonna be okay, but this sucks. and
Yes.
and just holding on to some semblance of hope that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Like you said, even if it's, just praying out of sheer hope and doubt, like I hope that there's something.
That there's something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I can completely relate to that. And it's dark. It's a dark time and place to be in, within, our own psyche, or our own,
Hmm.
trenches, if you will. Um, so I really appreciate you sharing that and being so vulnerable in that story.
Absolutely.
Can I say something real quick?
Of
Yes.
course.
So, I mean, this is your podcast, so
No,
no,
please.
but I'm like, you invited me here, so here I am. No, I think that's so true. And I was just thinking about how, but what's that the idea that like it's not so dark in your psyche if you feel the safety to be able to share what's going on with someone else and not keep
Yeah.
it just internal, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
I was just thinking about, I've been thinking a lot about as we've been talking about this idea of fear as that came up in my story. And I remember a time when I was divorced after being married for 13 years and I'd felt right about the decision. And I remember again, this is just, I've never shared this publicly, but I remember and there was one night when I was so tired of being alone and the divorce wasn't official and I was so afraid. I just was so I am not someone that thrives living alone. Right? Everything I do is about human connection. There's a reason because I need it. Because I'm like the I feel like the poster child for like more friends, please. Like uh and I remember one night when I vocalized to a trusted person that I even though I felt like it was the right thing to move forward with this, I wanted to go back on my decision.
Mhm.
Not because I felt like that was right, but because I didn't think I could do this. I didn't think I could live alone another second. I could be in this quiet basement apartment by myself, sharing my kids half the time. I couldn't do it anymore. And they gave me some really, really valuable advice after, holding me and letting me cry. And the advice they gave me is they said, if that's the decision you come to, that's okay. Like everybody gets to change their mind. But they said, but we don't make decisions that big when we feel like this, when we
Mm.
feel this scared.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I love what you said to your husband in the kitchen, how you're like, I know everything's going to be okay, but this really sucks. Like in those moments, like, I don't
Like
know,
I
for
was
me, I
just
found,
sobbing.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure. Well, if you're off your antidepressants, I mean, I can speak I know you said that. I was like, uh-huh, how'd it go? Speaking from firsthand experience, getting off a lot and back on. Uh, I just think that there's some wisdom to if you're looking for how to help people in that moment and they're open to your advice and your perspective, I think you sit with them and you hold them and you help encourage them to not make big decisions when they are at their darkest, which is why it was so helpful when I was questioning whether deity was real to have someone just sit and listen and be like, okay, that's real. They didn't make me choose.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't, then da 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 da. Or, well, like, because I have friends that believed either. I have atheist friends, I have friends that believe in God, right? And those people that could just sit with me and stay with me there. And we didn't need to make a decision about this today. We could just sit and be okay there. I think there's so much value in not making decisions when you're scared.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
But that always, I feel like the times when I've been able to make the best, most rational decisions, I'm very calm and peaceful.
Yes.
We can't do that all the time. Uh, sometimes we have to make decisions under pressure when we're not just feeling calm and peaceful. But in general, man, those big life-changing ones, I think we would do well to take a beat and slow down and give other people the same grace.
I think also this just came to mind as you were sharing that. Well, a few things, and I'll get to them. But the first is I think when we are able to rationalize and slow down and take time to make important decisions and make really big decisions from a place of stillness, from a place of peace, of calm, and then we see, oh, these things worked out, right? Then it's easier to trust ourselves in those rash moments when we don't feel peaceful and we have to make, quick decisions. It's easier to trust that we'll be okay. I think, and also that we will, if we take time in peaceful moments to make decisions and think things through, when we are in the chaos and everything, I think we're more likely to, I guess, impulsively make a good decision out of practice. So I think that there's a lot of truth to what you said of, taking time and not making rash decisions when you don't need to. But also something else that I was thinking of is a topic that I've really, really loved lately, because I've been living there a lot, is the in between, right?
Mm.
Is kind of that liminal space between one thing of substance and another. And something that I heard recently that really resonated with me was regardless of what a circumstance is, whether it be for our greatest good or to our detriment, if it is taking up space in our life, it is substance to us, and we as human beings crave substance. And then when we finally let go of it, there's a void. It's just
Mm.
it's unavoidable. There's just a void, and I don't think that we really give give space or conversation to that subject enough where and I think that as people in position to help others as well, I think we need to be there for others when they're in that in between, and also honestly just make people aware that that's going to happen.
Mm.
Where all of a sudden this thing of substance in your life is going to be gone, and we are going to want to gravitate towards something grabbing at pretty much
Yes.
anything that's going to come our way when we
Hmm.
are feeling in need. And it's so important to recognize that that's going to happen and recognize when we are there. um, Remember the end goal that we have in mind, whatever that might be, and not make impulsive, harmful decisions just because we feel empty.
Yes. Well, and I think I talked to you, or maybe I didn't talk to you, Dakota, as in the because you guys are we all are we're all connected based on personal conversations we've had. We are all connected with a lot of people that have reconciled having beliefs about sexuality and about religion and how they move together, and are they at odds, or are they, like that there's been some conversation and discussion around that. What it just made me think of is a dear friend of mine who came out as gay after participating in a religion that was where he felt like that was not an option. And he came out as gay, and I remember it broke my heart. Well, I'm gonna cry just talking about it, because he talked about how when he first went to an activity where others were openly gay, he talked about having people touch him in ways that made him really uncomfortable and act very sexual towards him. And it was so confusing to him. And he came home and he just sat on the couch and he just cried because he thought, okay, well, if I don't feel like I belong here in my faith community, but I also don't relate to that kind of casual touching that makes me uncomfortable, do I belong nowhere? And he talked to me about how he also cried though for people that he saw doing that in ways that felt destructive and non-connective. I was obviously not there, so I can't make a judgment. This is his perspective, but he just talked about how what he saw though was some people that were incredibly lonely and had felt incredibly alone for such a long time, grasping and looking for connection. Even if, in his opinion, it seemed counterfeit, he could see why they were acting the way they were, even with him, who they didn't know, because he saw it as a need for connection. And I was just thinking about that so much, about how like how heartbreaking that is. And that's just one example of one type of challenge, when we have a void of, okay, I thought I was going to do things this way and now I'm going to do things this way, and now I'm trying to make sense of all of it. That it is so easy to, even my experience of becoming a single mom, having been married for, all of a sudden it's like I'm alone. What do I do with that loneliness?
Yeah.
That could easily turn to addictions, trying to control, like there's so many things. It is hard to just sit and be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And giving people grace, giving people compassion when we see
Yeah.
them going down a road that we can see because we're on the outside looking and we can see the direction that that road goes on. I don't know, I feel impressed too. So after Dakota's dad left, we were married for 24 years. I spun. And I was very lonely. Dakota's dad is gay, and he took his name off of our church records really early on in our marriage. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was just starving for someone to tell me I was beautiful and for someone to
Yeah.
tell me that they believed in the same faith that I did. Like just
Mm.
starving for that.
Mm-hmm.
And
For
so
those really specific requirements.
yes. And so the very first person that I really started corresponding with on a dating app who gave me all of those things that I was so hungry
Yeah.
for, I married. And it is not the man that I'm married to today. It was a marriage that did not last very long. It was rough. It was not a good setting. And I am so thankful that my kids, that my community, that my friends, that my church, family gave me grace. They gave me a lot of grace because a lot of them, a lot of my kids were like, "You're going down a bad road." My daughter, the day we were married, she's like, "We should just go to Norway." Let's just go to Norway.
Let's run away.
Her favorite artist is from Norway, and she's like, "Let's just go to Norway. Why are you getting married? Let's use that money
You
and go
don't
to
have to do
Norway."
this.
Like they could see, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yet
Yeah.
I was met with so much grace and so much compassion, making a very bad mistake and really spinning even harder because of that, being in
Mm-hmm.
such a bad place. Um,
Yeah.
I'm so thankful. And it is that connection. It is absolutely that connection that has gotten me through the hardest times of my life. And that's partly what this podcast is about, as well as your podcast, is about connection.
Yes.
We need each other. I can't even imagine doing this life and all the hard that comes with it alone.
Yeah.
I can't.
Absolutely.
Even being a therapist, I tell my clients all the time, a good friend is so much better than even the best of therapists. Not that a good therapist can't help people get through really dark times. We're trained, we have the education, we have the tools, but a good friend is
You're not paying them. There's a
no,
different vibe.
they're like gold. They're like
Yeah.
gold.
Mhm.
That connection, like the closeness that we have with others when we can be raw, where we can be vulnerable, where we can be in our own mess that we created ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet seen with love, seen
Mhm.
with like, I'm here for you. Like my boys moved in with us, they came and they were there, and it meant everything.
That's huge. That's huge. It reminds me of Brene Brown in Braving the Wilderness, I believe it is. She talks about this idea of belonging and how, you have to belong to yourself first. And it really clicked to me when she talked about how when you don't live authentically and transparently, you're always going to feel like you don't belong because you'll always have this lingering question inside, well, what if they knew? Like, what if these people knew the real me? Would they, like, maybe they accept me now, but what if they knew all of this? And that really pushed me to live a level of transparency that I hadn't in the past. While I may sometimes be an oversharer for sure, there has been great comfort in my life from feeling like I don't really have anything that I'm super worried about people knowing. I mean, not that I can think of. I'm sure we all have masks to an extent still, but it's been a really big relief to step into a level of authenticity I didn't know I could before. It's been really good for my mental health too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that when we are able to be raw and be vulnerable and be real and be authentic, whatever that looks like, um, and be true to who we are in the best sense, um, I just think miracles happen.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Absolutely.
I really, really do.
Absolutely. Totally. Can I share one other
Of
experience?
Yes,
course,
of course,
please.
please.
And people can take this for what
We're
it
not
is.
related at all.
Of course, please. You guys are cute. You guys are cute. Um, I want to say too, for those that I hope everyone believes in something, or finds something to believe in outside of themselves, something bigger than they are. That's based on my life experience and where I've had incredible experiences. I remember a time when I was dealing with a lot where I had a therapist say to me, "Are you angry with God?" I was back to believing in God, but it didn't mean I liked him. But I believed something was there. She said, "Are you angry with God?" And I was like, "No." Why? Like, no. And she just said, "Okay." She just said, "I just want you to know if you are, it's okay, and he can handle it." And I remember going in my car and sitting, and it was very dramatic because the rain was pouring. I'm dead serious. And I was locked in the car, and it was like dark and gloomy out, and the rain's just pouring on the window. And I sat there and I just started weeping. And I just said out loud, I didn't close my eyes. I just said out loud, "I am so, so mad at you. I am so mad. How could you let such and such happen? I was little. How is that okay? You knew this would impact me later. How I've tried so hard to be good. I've tried so hard, and I just let him have it." And it was interesting in that moment. We talk about being authentic and real, and we talk about, doing that for other people here that are living that we can see. I just want to speak to my experience with a higher power, that there was a peace that overcame me that I cannot describe when I did that.
Absolutely.
When I spoke out that anger towards that higher power for me, of how I really, with the unfairness that I was feeling and experiencing. And so people can take that for what it's worth and what it means to them, how it speaks to their souls. But I can just testify that there is a level of peace that I have found in connecting into something bigger than me that can handle anything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It makes me sad when I hear people afraid of that power, or afraid of the judgments, or afraid of, because in my experience, there's just a resource, a well of peace there that I have not found anywhere else. And so I think he understands much more than our human mind can comprehend.
One of my favorite talks ever that I heard at church was actually a youth who had just got back from, especially for youth, a youth conference for youth.
Hmm.
And she's like, my biggest takeaway was that one of the counselors had told their group, give God your worst. And I will
Mm.
always remember that saying because he is big enough. He can take it. And if all we ever do is give our gratitude, which is beautiful, and we need to do that as well because that connects us to deity. But when we can give him our fear, our doubt, our anger, our ugly, all the things, man, there's healing in that. There's connection in that. That's when, if we want to talk about walking the highest walk, that's when we walk with God,
Mm-hmm.
is when
Mm,
we really can give him all of us.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And he is big
Absolutely.
enough.
Yeah.
I think of my mom hosts women's retreats, but she's also done some for both men and women. And one of the things that I love doing when we go to the ocean is we go and we just scream out into the ocean, and or we will write down notes and let them go to the ocean because it's something that's loud and roaring and powerful and bigger than us. And
Mm.
so I think for those who maybe don't have that faith or that trust in a higher power, in a deity, in a god, um, or just absolutely outright don't believe in that. I think that there is still power in just getting those things out, getting
Mm.
those things off your chest, and whether it be you know screaming in the woods or at the ocean or or just into your own pillow. I think that it's just a very powerful practice to be real and get out whatever it is that is on your heart, whatever it
Well
is that's
said.
weighing you down.
Well, and there's a reason, like you're saying, like why journal writing is so impactful for people, right? Writing things down, tearing them up, burning them, different things,
Yeah.
because getting that energy out of you and outside of yourself is so, so good, so healthy. I love that. I love
Absolutely.
it.
Do you have an example of maybe a guest on your podcast that maybe you had a little apprehension before they came on? Maybe you were like, I don't know how this one's going to work, how we're going to really connect, or someone maybe in your life that um, maybe you just again had some apprehension with, that you weren't sure how you were going to have even a conversation with them or connection with them, and how that worked.
Well, I'm gonna change my response just a little
That's
bit because
okay.
it's the one that I think I should share. Not so much my apprehension, but the public's apprehension, if that's okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yes.
I recently interviewed someone by the name of Kevin Frankie. And if you guys know, do you remember hearing about a Ruby Frankie child abuse case in Utah? Maybe there's a
Yes.
big Hulu documentary. It's called The Devil in the Family, The Rise of and Fall of Ruby Frankie or something like that.
Hmm.
So Ruby Frankie was actually from my hometown, which is Springville, Utah. That's where all of that occurred, most of it in the documentary. There was some in St. George there at the end, but I was living 3 minutes from their house when that was all going down. I didn't know at the time, obviously. And I remember having my aunt text me like a news article, she's over in New Jersey being like, look, an LDS influencer ends up being the worst. And I'm like, oh, geez, like, I just don't like, here's a Christian woman and look what she did to her kids. And you're just like, oh my goodness. It's just so hard, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't even look at it because I was like, this is not the day where I need to hear about how someone else made a sad choice that is just, in the name of a religion or anything like that. That just breaks my heart. Or even in the name of therapy, right? Which has been such a positive thing for me, but I know not everyone. Because unfortunately, people make bad decisions in every profession and every religion, right? Like that's just how it is. We want to think
In
it's one
everything.
religion or it's one nationality or it's one sexuality or it's one. And the problem with that is that's just not reality. Like people have narcissistic tendencies in every group and they will utilize whatever they have to promote that, right? Whether it be
For sure.
a religion, a culture, right? So that's my tangent on that. So I see this article and I don't even give it, I just am like, I don't even want to read that. It sounds sad. Well, several years later, I was asked by a friend who was friends with Kevin. His ex-wife is now in jail for many accounts of just horrific child abuse. She did in the name of religious reasons and therapeutic reasons with her therapist and just really sad stuff. And I was asked to go to dinner in a group of people, and her ex-husband, Kevin, was going to be there, who was unaware of almost everything that happened until the day that it all came crashing down and he found out. And there's been, as I said, I have not followed the story a lot, but I was asked to go to dinner and said, "Hey, my friend is this guy. You may have heard of him. There's like the number one Hulu documentary on there is about his family. But I want this to be a safe place because I just would imagine that like it's hard for him to like have a ton of authentic relationships, and uh, understanding that there'd been a lot of judgment towards him. And I watched the documentary before I was like, yeah, for sure. And then I went and watched the documentary and holy cow, that family's been through a lot. Really, really, I think important documentary, but very hard. And we went to dinner and my husband and I just sat and talked across from him. And he just like everything he said, I was just like, this man has like done work to heal and has experienced a life that I can't even comprehend, and the wisdom that's come from it of having to be put in such a humble position. Well, later on, I felt this nudge, like, I want to ask him to be on the podcast, but I wasn't sure. And I knew that he didn't really do interviews a lot. So, I mean, he just met me that one time, but I just sent him I was just honest with him, an authentic test. Like, hey, I know you don't owe anyone anything. Uh, I'd really love to hear how people saw you and showed up for you when all this broke and what people did for you. There's been a lot of negativity in the news about it. I'd love to hear like who was humane. And I remember he told me he was like I'm literally like getting phone calls from Dr. Phil and I won't go on because that's all the news wants to talk about is like the horrific details of my children's abuse, which he's trying to protect from like, and how could you not have known? And they want like the shock and awe. And he came on my podcast and it was interesting. Even some people that I feel like know me pretty well, I had some interesting feedback from people being kind of like, you're gonna have him on the podcast. And I was really surprised, to be honest. I hadn't apprehended that. And it was even interesting after the interview. I mean, I reached out to like every news outlet I could hire someone to find for me, and I sent them clips of the podcast. He's been asked to be interviewed by I don't know how many places, and he says no. And he came on my podcast in and saying because of the theme of it, because like you're actually promoting positivity, and he was able to sit and share like what neighbors did for him, like coming in, turning like neighbors that he turned his back on and sided with his wife on, not knowing what was going on, like literally spoon feeding him. He'd lost 40 pounds, like turning on his thermostat, changing his sheets, like cleaning up the house that had been destroyed. Just the humanity of like, yes, you've hurt us, but we will talk about that later because right now you need to eat and you need to sleep. And your children are with the state and you don't even know what's going on. And you've been gaslit so hard and so incredibly brainwashed. And he just talked about just the humanity of them. I guess it was an interesting time for me because I received a lot of backlash for interviewing him. There's a YouTube video out there. I am not big enough to have a hate video, except now I am apparently. I was looking for our own video after we posted it. And I just typed in like Julie DeJesus, ICU or Kevin Frankie or something on YouTube. And this video pops up. I remember it was 1 a.m. and I'm like sitting in my bed. My husband's asleep next to me. And I'm like, what the what? Because it's like a screenshot of my video, but then there's like these two people. And I'm like, what? And I just start playing it. And so it's a video of people watching our podcast and making fun of everything and like just hating on everything that I say or he does. And like saying we're having an affair, like super crude things about our relationship. And I'm just like sitting, literally, you guys, the first 5 minutes of it is their sponsors for a sex toy. Like that's what intros into it. I'm like, oh, good. I'm so glad that this like incredibly vulnerable video where we talk God and like having nothing left and like wanting to be struck by lightning just to be gone from the like, oh my gosh, that now it's attached to this hatred and this like flivver, just like unkindness. And I've only watched the first 10 minutes, granted, because I was like, I don't trust myself to see this whole thing and not have like 80,000 insecurities for the rest of my life just based on what I saw for the first 10 minutes. Like the way I talk, my mannerisms, that I must sound flirtatious, and just like the comments. I mean, like, like we're going on a cruise. I mean, there's a comment where it's like, can you imagine being stuck on a boat with this woman for 5 days? Like, oh my gosh, I'd kill myself, like stuff like that. And I just was like, oh boy, oh my goodness, right? All because like I'm not a big enough deal. Like no one cares about me. They just care that I interviewed someone that makes them question what they know.
Yeah.
Because here's the reality. None of the news outlets wanted, no one, and Kevin told me that even he's like, I don't think you'll have any luck. And I'm like, oh, because I don't have a big enough following. And he's like, oh no, because it's positive. It's something positive that came from this. And that's not as clickable. And there was one. They still have not published our interview. And even that, I walked into the interview and gave it, and there was a very specific agenda when I got there that I didn't know about based on faith and different things. And maybe that's why this had happened. I just, sorry, I am coming back to your question, which is dealing with, I guess, scrutiny from the outside world of something that I felt really good about. And I felt like was, I mean, one of the most, if not the most powerful interview I've ever done, that I felt incredibly in the moment, like there were no cameras. It just was like soul connecting to soul of knowing what it's like to feel so incredibly alone and question everything and to have people choose to treat you with humanity. Um, I mean, you can call it religion, you can call it values, like that is what it is. It's that in practice in real life. It's not just saying it, it's doing it. It's walking the walk, right? I'll walk with you. And I guess I hope that that experience just solidified to me how badly we need podcasts like this and voices like this because
We need good.
there is a culture of divisiveness that is unfortunately very popular and very trendy, and it's not reality of in general. Like we're not seeing people clearly, and that's in part because a lot of disconnection, a lot of not being able to uh to level and human with people as other human beings. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone I couldn't talk to. I don't know. Like I maybe I think too much of myself. I feel like really when we get down to it, most of us can relate to each other.
We can.
Yes.
We can. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that.
So no one go Google the video. I mean, you can if you want to hear about some things about how terrible my voice is, you totally can. But just don't tell me what they say is all. You know what though? There were some benefits. Like all of a sudden, our video promoting hopefully a lot of good things. I mean, like in a day, I had like 11,000 views. And what's cool too is there were people that got on there that were not like because a lot of it was based on me and Kevin's shared faith because we do speak to it comes up in the interview. He brings up God, and while it's not like a specific religious interview, this is about being authentic. Like everyone's allowed to share whatever their experience is on this podcast, ICU. There were people that got on that are previous members of our faith that got on and like defended us and were like, hey, like I don't see that at all. And like if you want to be allowed to practice what you do, like then like you have to like anyways, it was cool to see other people and even like say I actually went and watched the podcast and here's what I have to say. Like I saw people coming to bat for us and I was like, that's really nice. Again, to see that humanity of like, yeah, I don't really like this and this, but I'm not going to make this a reason to divide that they no longer have anything valid to say, which I think is where we see throughout history a lot of really horrific events happen. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think oftentimes when someone tries to destroy someone or put someone down or whatever, I see it as God. It totally counteracts that. Like goodness comes out of their trying to destroy something or put someone down. Like oftentimes it backlashes on them.
Well, I think a lot of it's being able to see the contrast, right? Just being
Yeah.
able to see the contrast of what does this feel? We have to teach our kids like, does this feel like peace? Does this, what is this, what it, right? Like we don't make decisions out of fear. What feels
Yeah.
like stillness, like Dakota brought up, and peace ultimately. And that's where I've found my happiest life, to live from a place of peace.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree. And I think also, going back to a thought that you mentioned of, everybody wants that clickbait of the negativity, right? It's more clickable. I think that, and then you mentioned, that's not reality. I think it is a side of reality, but I think we get to decide what our reality is to a certain extent,
Mm.
at least. I don't think that we can be completely ignorant to, horrible, heinous things that happen in the world. However, I do think that what we pay attention to, we'll see more of. I think
Well
that
said.
what we choose to focus on, um, what we choose to sow, we reap, and what we choose to see in the world. Um,
Seeking
We will
you shall
find.
find.
yes, we'll
Yes.
see
If you're
more of it.
seeking good, you're going to find good.
Hmm.
If you're
Well, and
seeking negative
maybe
and bad, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah,
I love that. Maybe a more accurate way to say it is it's not the full picture. Maybe it's
yeah,
not that it's not reality, but it's not the full, it's like the blinders they put on horses where like this is their only thing, right? This is it. And they don't see. Do you guys know what I'm talking about with
Yeah.
horses, or do I
yes,
sound
Yes.
yep,
crazy?
yep.
Sure.
Right?
No, it's a
I'm
great
like,
analogy.
there's a way smarter word for it, but I always think of that of like, this is all I do. I just look here. And to be honest, it makes me sad for them, and for myself in moments when I have been able to only see the negative, or paint people as black and white, good or bad, wrong or right, because I believe, and I write about this in my book, I really feel like it's often a defense of fear. I don't want to think that could ever happen to me, what happened to Kevin Frankie. That my spouse could abuse our children in the name of a therapist's advice. And I would see that coming. I couldn't be brainwashed. I couldn't be gaslit. And so for me to feel safe, I criticize that person by saying that would never happen to me, because now I feel safer because I'm like, I don't relate to that. That could never be me. So then what do I do if I listen to someone and I'm like, oh, I kind of relate to that. I kind of see how that happened without you understanding or realizing. All of a sudden, that's really scary for me,
Yeah,
right? That's really scary to realize that I am fallible and that I am able to make mistakes or to miss signs of something going on. That's really terrifying. And I think it's really like a letting down of the ego and letting go of control of, I will do my best, but I also can make mistakes, and hard things could happen in my life, even when I'm trying to be a good person. And it's a scary, it's kind of an in-between feeling. I feel like with what you were talking about, Dakota, it's different, but just this, again, this uncomfortable, like maybe I'm not in complete control all the time. It's scary.
yes, yeah, absolutely. I think that, yeah, I think it's really terrifying when we allow ourselves to go there, when we allow ourselves to recognize that these bad things that happen in the world, um, it's not an us and them type thing, like where bad things
Yes.
only ever happen to other people, and then, oh well, I've had bad things happen to me, but it would never be like that.
Right.
They're human too, and they are having a similar life experience to you. Who's to say that it wouldn't happen or couldn't happen to you, whatever it might be.
Right. Right.
We think of war on, foreign land, and oh, that could never happen here. We're safe on this side of the world, or but another country could say the exact same thing, and we think of violence that happens in homes or in schools, where oh, well, that happened over in this state, but it would never happen in my neighborhood until it does. And, God forbid that something bad happens to anybody, but the reality is that it could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And that can be incredibly difficult to grapple with. And like you said,
Yeah.
it's very easy then for us to put up that wall of, oh, well, or those blinders. That's never going to happen to me, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm safe. I'm safe over in this corner.
Yeah.
Um, and,
And let
and
me find something about their life to blame it on why they
For
have to.
sure.
exactly,
For sure.
We've
exactly.
seen that even as we talk about I'll walk with you and like practicing different faith traditions or having different beliefs. How often I think it's so I think it's concerning to say when we see someone make a different choice than we would say, oh, well, they're unhappy because da. I think there's a fine line there where we really would do better to just walk with you
Yeah,
Yes.
because we don't know. We don't know that. There are some obvious things we talked about, like, you know, chaotic behavior when we're feeling lonely and things that we wouldn't normally do or whatever. There are some like correlation to that, but I also have seen a lot of people use people's circumstances again to feel safe by judging them for, well, that happened to them because they didn't do what I thought they should have. And I just
yeah,
think that's a place where we would do well to, like, again, have a little more stillness and be like, do we feel peace about that, or am I feeling afraid, and so I want to create comfort in myself of that will never happen to me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a way we can see other people, is give them that grace.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think that it's so easy to assume that bad things happen to bad people, or
Yeah.
who,
Oh,
who
yeah.
we might think as
Yeah.
bad people.
Right.
Um, but bad and good things happen to everybody.
Everyone, no matter what direction you're going in life, that's life.
It rains on everybody and the sun shines on everyone.
Hmm.
Yep.
It goes both ways. It's not those things aren't a judge of character
Yeah.
or decisions that we make.
Yeah.
But how we respond
Yes.
is where I think our power lies.
Yeah. I think our lives are much less micromanaged by a higher being than sometimes we fall prey to believing. But I do believe that
Absolutely, I
there is
agree.
a presence and support there, unlike anything I can even imagine. But I don't think I think mortality will do its work.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. Thank you so much for sharing a lot with us. I feel like with each episode, I come away better. I'm so excited to launch these and for people to be able to listen to people like you, Julie, who have so much to share and so much insight, because you are doing so much good in the world through the work that you're doing, through your podcast, through presenting and speaking, and your women's group that you're started. And I'm so excited for you because it's such powerful work.
Hmm.
Um, and you're making a difference, and we need
Thank
more
you.
good. We need
We
more good.
do.
That's, we don't know where this is going to go as far as the podcast. We don't know if it will just be our few friends and family that watch it. And if that's it and they're benefited from it, that's perfect. That's perfect. All we know is that we feel the Heavenly Father's like, I want you to do this. So we're like, okay, we'll do it. But we know the world needs more good.
Yes.
So thank you for doing good.
You're welcome.
Thank
I'm
you so
trying, right?
much for
Stumbling.
sharing light
We're all
and
trying.
doing good.
Thank
Absolutely.
Love
you.
it.
Yeah. Thanks
Absolutely.
for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us, Julie. I guess in summary today, I would just like to ask you what you would like others to gain about hearing, to gain from hearing rather, your experiences, and also how you think that we can all be more unified in our walk together in life.
Mm. I think what comes to mind is I think often, especially when we struggle, there is a lie that we sometimes believe that we're alone. We talked about those blinders. And also a lie that, for better or for worse, people think about us a lot more than they really do. That people judge us a lot more than they really do. When I think that the best way well, that's a heavy thing to say. I'm not going to say the best way. The way that comes to mind of a very effective way to walk with people to see them is to be the first to reach out. It benefits you and the person, but sometimes we need to do a better job, I think, I mean, I'm always promoting this idea, like I see you and how we can see others. And I hope everybody listening feels seen by people. But if you don't, I think that we have the opportunity to reach out and to go get the friends we need and to go get the support we need by reaching out. And sometimes that feels counterintuitive. It feels better to wait and hope that we're discovered by others. But I think that we are powerful beings with agency. And I've just seen a great benefit in my life when I stopped waiting for other people to help me create the life I wanted and to start creating it. And sometimes that's a little bit of time, especially if you're listening and you're struggling. Like sometimes that's that's one choice at a time, and that's okay. And it's not all at once. But I guess I just want to say I've seen really positive momentum in being the first to take the step towards someone else, and just starting with one step and see where that takes you.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much for
Wonderful.
joining us.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much,
Anytime.
Julie. We genuinely we love you. We appreciate you coming on and joining us with I'll Walk With You. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us this week. Until next time.
Thank you.